2022. Power Corridor is a radio program dedicated to certain agenda for our politicians and the society. Power Corridor is a non-partisan platform for discussions aimed at giving clarity, balance, and setting the right agenda for societal change. To join the conversation live or catch up on previous episodes, follow us or indeed watch this ongoing episode at www.facebook.com/lawfm radio, www.facebook.com/lawfm radio. We are at Law FM Radio, at Law FM Radio on Instagram. Our Twitter handle is at Law FM_radio. You can listen live on our website from anywhere in the world at www.lawfmng.com, www.lawfmng.com. You may want to save the studio numbers, because when we open the lines for direct interaction with our guest, the numbers will be useful. The studio numbers are 070-322-77338, 070-322-77338, or 090-9555-1039, 090-9555-1039. You can, apart from calling, send WhatsApp and text messages on those numbers. We will read those messages out, be they questions, opinions, or inquiries to the guest or for the show. My name is Gbola. I'm available on social media at facebook.com/gbola.oba, Instagram at Gbola, Twitter at Gbola. Our Nigerian proverb for today says, you know who you love, but you can't know who loves you. Ẹni afẹ́lá mọ̀, how many tó fẹ́ ni. You sure know who you love, but you can't know who loves you. Summary analysis of some of the major news headlines in today's papers. Muslim aggrieved APC Christians to dump Tinubu Shetima. Muslim aggrieved APC members to dump Tinubu Shetima. Pro Tinubu rally grounds Lagos, APC excited. Pro Tinubu rally, that was yesterday, grounds Lagos, APC excited. I just want to beg all these parties, about time they stopped taking over our streets, disrupting traffic, making life miserable for Lagosians, particularly motorists, and indeed all Lagosians. About time. We've seen enough of your rallies. Just do it the way it's been done historically. Take a major venue, let your supporters and those who want to listen to you come over there. Indeed, if you ask me, I'll let an average politician know that it's quite wasteful these days to be doing rallies, especially in urban centers. Majority of those who are resident in urban centers are on social media platforms, and you reach people far more effectively these days through digitalia, through digital platforms. So I wonder why, we've been repeatedly subjected to the madness of these rallies. Areas, major precincts of the city locked down, in logjam, people's lives made miserable. I got caught in yesterday's rally, and it was not a particularly interesting experience. The chairman of Lagos State Parks and Garages Management Committee, Musiliu Akisoya, popularly known as MC Oluomo, has said that the killing of NSAS protesters at Lekki Toll Gate in 2020 could not be connected to the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Gbola Tinubu. Oluomo said it was rather a political game by Tinubu's counterparts in the People's Democratic Party and the Labour Party, Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi respectively. The transport boss noted that it was not possible that there would be killings of protesters and the corpses would not be revealed, nor would the families of the deceased be coming out to ask for their loved ones. The jury is out. It's going to be interesting to know what ultimately that translates to in 2023. This is where we wrap up the introductory segment of the show. We'll go on a short break, and when we're back, the show continues.
Hold on tight.
My name is Honorable Hakeem Dixon.
This is Honorable Adekunle Akobada.
I'm Dili Momodu, and you are listening to Law FM 103.9 for knowledge and entertainment. The only law radio station.
When you listen to this station, you learn about your rights. You discover the law in ways you never imagined. You know why? Because we broadcast in your interest.
It's a problem that we are all experiencing in the country. Different parts of the country, the same thing is happening. So who do we call on to? Who do we hold responsible?
We impact knowledge.
If the grid is unable to shed the load that it ought to, it could also result in the collapse of the national grid.
Call it what you may, but we are here to stay. The law was never biased, so why should it be now? To every individual, we are Law FM 103.9.
There are no internal electricity.
Every individual should know about the law and their rights, because the law affects every aspect of daily living,
Irrespective of age or status.
Law FM 103.9 ensures you get to hear the law, talk the law, and know your rights like never before. I am Khadija Okunulamidi. Keep listening to Law FM.
That's right. So, my name is Honorable Hakeem. Once you have an education, you can be anything in this world. But one thing, your parents will not suffer to pay your school fees. Government should guarantee that freedom for you. Payment of your school fees, getting a student loan, guaranteed by government. My name is Honorable Hakeem Dixon. You are listening to me at 103.9 Law FM.
Power Corridor on Law FM 103.9.
Welcome back to Power Corridor on Law FM 103.9. We have our guest on the line already, but as it is our tradition, we do a reading, a literary intro before we formally introduce our guest. Today's literary intro reads thus: the man worthy of being congratulated. As a matter of policy, I don't congratulate any of my friends and acquaintances who get either elected or appointed into public office. Indeed, I have refused to congratulate my wife on the 2 occasions that she's been jointly elected into an executive office. Why? One, because a notice me for beneficence industry has pervertedly been birthed in Nigeria around what ordinarily ought to be done in good faith. People congratulate most persons appointed into office or elected into office. They do it because of sheer exhibitionism, wanting to be noticed and given contract. Two, because I may end up being one of the most vociferous voices lambasting you as a failing public officer. Therefore, I have resorted to only congratulating my friends and acquaintances who have done well in the offices they held after their tenure. Let me read what Professor then Dr. Tony Iradia, one of Nigeria's most respected teachers of journalism and an outstanding public administrator himself, wrote in 2018 about our guest today. Quote, on Thursday, October 14, 2018, the 14th All Nigeria Editors Conference opened in Asaba, Delta State. Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, Chairman Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, who was billed to deliver the keynote address, was represented by Mike Igini, the Commission's resident Electoral Commissioner, REC, for Akwa Ibom State. Mike's presentation was superb, which explains why he got a standing ovation at the end of his address. For this writer, who chaired the opening session and who had severally watched Igini making value-laden contributions to television programs on elections, Mike Igini is simply INEC's encyclopedia of electoral information. The Commission should not shy away from making efforts at raising the capacity of other electoral commissioners to Igini's standard concerning the knowledge of subject matter, dedication to duty, and most importantly, ability to be firm and impartial as an umpire. As a resident electoral commissioner, Igini does not spend time dishing out fake assurances to voters about elections or pretending that poor conduct can be excused. What he does is to educate people on arrangements made by INEC, spending considerable time on the essence of everyone keeping to the rules of the game. That is the end of my quote. I, however, conclude this by writing, if that was the general opinion when he newly assumed office, his denouement, indeed, the way he left office was the dramatization of intrepidity and an open refusal to validate the chicanery of a man who, against extant electoral law, had contested for a failed presidential candidature, claiming to have emerged as the senatorial candidate of the same party. He, however, is oozing erudition on the provisions of the extant Electoral Act. But what can his faith in the statute amount to if the electoral ecosystem is populated by habitual disrespecters of the rule of law? Today, our guest is a gentleman who, above all, for me, has walked his talk in the test of circumstance that God has put him to as an electoral commissioner in Nigeria. Mike Igini, barrister, good afternoon or good evening. Hello?
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm hearing you. Hello. Good afternoon.
Wonderful to have you as our guest.
Yes, and thank you very much for your kind words and the generous introduction.
I don't do it cheaply. I don't do it cheaply. You quite deserve it. The whole time you spent in office, the closest we came was you were coming out of a hotel in Abuja. I was about going in. You noticed me and gave a nod. As I usually do, because I make it a tradition of being distant from my friends and acquaintances in public office. But I must say, my brother, you have earned your cap of integrity.
Thank you.
Let's now go to the circumstance, the drama that happened just about when you were leaving office. You stood firmly to say that a particular politician could not, within your understanding of the instant Electoral Act 2022, could not have been eligible to be the candidate of his party because he had contested within the party one election before, which he stepped down from. What instructed that position you took?
Well, thank you very much, Gbola, for the invitation to be part of public enlightenment as we prepare for the 2023 elections.
Fantastic.
Years ago, in 1960, at the ceremony for the signing into an act, the Freedom of Information Bill, J.F. Kennedy told the American people that democracy will only get better when the people get all the information that they need to get. And went further to say, which of course the greatest contribution of the Western world to Athenian democracy. You know, the people of Athens gave the word democracy to us. But the rule of law is what the Western world added to it. Therefore, a democracy without the rule of law, which means adherence to the rule of the game, has in it a virus that will over time destroy it. That is the basis why we always try asking God to protect us, to stand tall and mighty in defense of democracy and the rule of law. This is because if a purpose, if a system is not understood, abuse is inevitable. When there was a time under the military when the journey of Nigeria and the prospect of democracy was less certain. As a young man then, and still a young man now, I joined hands with other Nigerians to fight for democracy. Therefore, those who didn't fight for democracy, many of whom, or one of whom you have referenced, will not understand why we cannot be found wanting in destroying the very thing that we have fought for. That is the underlying principle that underscores my stance that this democracy, we must make it work for the good of the people of our country.
Thank you very much.
And all actions that are taken must be looked at from the point of view of the father. I could have died during the struggle, having detained with Bamidele Aturu, late Bamidele Aturu, and Ebu Adeburuwa, who were kept by the Abacha regime in Enugu together. So I fought for democracy.
Enugu prisons is better. We'll be a bit more.
Yes.
Will be a bit more clear for many who may be listening now who perhaps were not born then. You know, many of them too, as a result of the disillusionment they having, many of them too are getting politically active. And one of the reasons why you've been invited to this show is so much because of these people who are bubbling with passion, but who should be well educated on how not to waste the passion because of ignorance. In the backdrop of the question I asked you earlier on,
yes,
when you eventually left office, which was due to the end of tenure,
correct.
it does seem so confounding to many political watchers that the gentleman has ultimately, through the machinations of a court of competent jurisdiction, and what is seemingly inconsistent with a major provision of the Electoral Act. Would you have any explanation for that without wanting to push you to be contemptuous to?
Gbola, no problem. Thank you. I want to thank you very much. I want to say this here, and this is going to send a message to my constituency, the judiciary. That is my constituency.
Primarily because you are a trained lawyer.
As a lawyer, as a legal practitioner, I have made a point over and again to my colleagues, because first, you have to be a lawyer before you become a judge. Therefore, we are all lawyers. I have made a point that democracy to survive in Nigeria, you require independent and very courageous judicial officers who will be ready to call justice by its true name and not by any other name. And I've also told my colleagues over and again that the legal profession is just not want to make a living. It's not only for bread and butter. That lawyers, by our training, we have a duty for the preservation of law and order in any society. That is why when there is disputes between individuals, citizens, or between government and government, or between individual and government, people go to lawyers. So we are expected to defend the rule of law. Now, as to the question you have raised, it is, we all recall that one of the troubling problems of our democracy is the question of internal party democracy. Since 2011, 2010 precisely, when we came on board with Professor Jega and Professor Lai Olorode, who three of us who were the only civil society people, we have worked so hard with other colleagues to give meaning and purpose to the ballot as the best means of expression of the will of the people in a democracy. But at the starting point, the first responsibility of a political party in a democracy is the presentation of candidates for election. This has been the problem we've been having since 1999. Thank God, the National Assembly, on account of the so many proposals we have made to strengthen internal party democracy, eventually passed the 2022 Electoral Act with profound provision that have now returned power either to party members or to Nigerian people, the electorate, and was signed on the 25th of February this year by the President. Under Section 84, subsection 1 of the Act, it provided specifically that a political party wishing to field candidate in the election shall conduct party primaries that shall be monitored by the Independent National Electoral Commission. The idea is that we want to discourage party leaders imposing fellow party members on their own party members, that the people should have a say at that level. The idea of bringing INEC in to monitor was to ensure that at the point of the conduct of primaries, which has to be done by the party itself, not INEC conducting it, the job of INEC is to be there, observe the process. If at the end of the day, Gbola has won the election as the candidate, it will be recorded by INEC. Now, based on that recording, as the person who emerged, under Section 29, subsection 1 of the current 2022 Electoral Act, it requires that the political party should submit names of those who must have emerged from party primary, monitored by INEC under Section 84(1) to the Commission. But what happened is that this provision intended to strengthen internal party democracy have now been observed more in breach than compliant. That was what happened in Akwa Ibom State and several other parts of the country, where people, meanwhile, the primary timetable was clear. The primary for governorship, senatorial, were conducted in May this year. The presidential convention of all political parties was slated for June. Now, the primary that was conducted governorship was on the 26th. The senatorial was on the 27th. Names of people who were screened by the party were submitted to INEC offices across the country, and those names did not contain the name of Senator Goswin Akwa. That is the person in question. His name was not there. All right? The day was conducted because at that material time, he was contesting for presidential election and he filled a form. All right? Now, after that exercise and the exercise of presidential election, somewhere around June, around on the 9th or 10th of June, on the Thursday, we were at a commission meeting in Abuja, and we were told by Friday morning, we saw on social media that breaking news, somebody had won a senatorial primary. The question now is, in fact, it was titled a rerun senatorial primary. When the news entered the air, journalists came to me and I explained to them that look, you cannot be talking about a rerun. When you talk about a rerun primary, it meant that you acknowledge that a primary had been conducted, which is true. But the question is, was it cancelled? You can only talk about rerun if the previous election has been cancelled. And if it is cancelled, it can only be between those who were screened, whose name were given to us, who participated in either the cancelled or suspended one, that can participate in a rerun exercise. And that clearly the subject matter that I was being asked questions is a non-issue, because the primary train of the senator have left the station long ago, so the 27th of May. Now, going to the question of the issue about the rule of law, at the time of submission, the name was not submitted, nor the name of the person who emerged also submitted. This is what happened. Now, they went to court. It will be expected that the court of law, knowing fully well that for anybody saying he's a candidate, he must be able to provide evidence of INEC reports that manage or that monitor that exercise. In this instance, the report of INEC was before the court, showing the person who was returned as the way which is one DIG Ekiti who emerged from that exercise. Despite that, and despite the fact that under the current Federal High Court 2022 pre-election practice direction issued by the court for expeditious hearing of the matter, and that all matters of pre-election, that all the people party must be sued, they quietly went, put only the name of INEC without the other parties, whereas the man who emerged has gone to court at Court 6 in Abuja. The same matter was again reassigned to another judge in breach of the current practice direction by the court itself. Well, this is the much I will say about that. They see the court of appeal.
In the case of
they see the court of appeal. They see the Supreme Court.
Barrister,
that the court will finally make determination of that man. Just like the counterpart in Yobe State, that is the Senate president. They are all on the same boat. We've all heard the outcome of that, but I'm sure that perhaps, even though out of integrity, self-respect, he has told the public that he was not going to appeal, and to be fair to the Senate president, he had never been seen or heard in writing or in television claiming that he actually wants it other than people who were saying that on his behalf. So, the good people of our country, that is much. I will say.
Barrister, let me quickly put this in. I may have to stampede you a little bit because time runs fast when we are engaging with somebody as interesting as you are. I have this WhatsApp message. From Adegboyega Adedeji, Ashtar Corridor. Good evening, Gbola. I've been following Mr. Mike Igini. Please pardon me if I murdered the name. You didn't murder the name, you got it. I've been following him for long. He's a kind of person, his kind of person is real, very honest, patriotic, and fearless. I want to salute him, and again, I want to know if there is a particular time that he fears for his or he wanted to throw in the towel due to intimidation, inducement, and harassment from politicians that doesn't want to follow the due process. Thank you. Adegboyega Adedeji. You want to quickly respond to that? Any occasion that you've feared for your life because maybe you were standing against what some powerful politicals want relative to your commitment to preserve the integrity of the law? Hello?
Tragedy of our country is that those who try to do the wrong thing are the ones being harassed, being hounded, all right? But in my own case, I have served out fully my tenure. A resident commissioner, you serve for 5 years. If you are reappointed, you serve for another 5 years, which is the limit you can serve at the state level. And interestingly, I am the only person who was reappointed after the 2015 elections, the degree of South, South, and Southeast. All I can tell you is that I served clearly for 5 years. I was in Akwa Ibom. I never stepped into the home of a human being. A human being. There is no politician born of a woman who can tell me, who can come forward that I was tasty and he gave me as basic as ordinary sachet of pure water to drink. It never happened.
Let me
to the values of the work. And that's what happened. So my tenure ended fully.
Let me give the numbers for listeners who may want to ask questions, but I have a very particular question actually before I even allow our listeners to interact with you. 070-322-77338 070-322-77338 or 090-9555-1039 090-9555-1039. Those are the numbers to call should anyone want to ask questions or indeed pass remarks of commendation to this gentleman. And if you believe that in some respects he may have dropped the ball from your own viewpoint, this is a liberal democracy. Let me give you a typical example. We have just spoken around an incident in Akwa Ibom State that seems to be ostensibly untidy when one looks at the dramatization of the event and the role of court relative to the extant provisions of the Electoral Act 2022. Now, we saw what happened in Ebonyi, where a machination was made even within the context of the provisions of the act, for somebody to deliberately say he was withdrawing. The younger brother said he was withdrawing for the governor who had partaken in the presidential, and we saw how the dignity of the law was espoused and upheld in Yobe in the case of the senior president and candidate Machina. But I'm sitting here now thinking, apart from INEC, there are other relevant institutions that should play credible roles in upholding the integrity of our elections. And one of such, for example, is the present Inspector General of Police would ordinarily hit the age of 60 on the 1st of March. By the extant law, either on hitting the age of 60 or after on the day he reaches 35 years as a serving officer, he ought to resign. So technically, from the 1st of December, he ought to have gone on the compulsory leave. And I'm thinking this is the man who will oversee two major rounds of elections. One, the presidential election in February, second in March. And in an atmosphere like that, what would the obstinacy of people like you, that the rules must be respected, what would it amount to in the backdrop of these issues that brought up, and many more like that? If one looks around the electoral ecosystem of Nigeria, what would be your response?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. First and foremost, the current 2022 Electoral Act, procedures of INEC that have been designed and developed, that have been piloted, have clearly taken power to the Nigerian people. As I've always made very clear during all the places I've worked across the country, no security personnel can connive with politicians and successfully rig election under my watch. It's not going to happen. It will never happen. And so, we are not really mind, even though we need a secured ambient environment for the conduct of election. That is the first observation. Number two, I may not have the full facts about when he will be leaving office as you have provided, but however, one, Nigerians, you can observe that under the current leadership of this Inspector General of Police, all the elections that we have conducted so far, you could see that there's a different trajectory. And I'm speaking as somebody who spent 10 years in conducting elections at different parts of the country. I know I've also experienced certain things outside Nigeria, in West African country, and other, but in particular in Nigeria. So you will see that from Edo election, Anambra election, Ekiti election, Ondo election, Osun election, there have been a remarkable departure in terms of the conduct of security personnel in the conduct of election. So clearly, if you ask me, Barry, the issue you have raised, I have to acknowledge it because during my sent forth ceremony, these were some of the statements I made, and I also made recommendations to the fact that 6 months to election, as we speak today, about 4 months or thereabouts, the commissioner of police in any command should not be removed, except if there is evidence of absence of neutrality or partisanship or playing on the side of one candidate or some candidates. They should not be removed, because they need to understand the environment, they need to start the command, the way they are going to monitor election, provide security for election. They also need to know the personnel. I say this because in Akwa Ibom, so 2019 election, we had over 7 commissioners of police before that election. That instability was intended to destabilize the commission at the state level because an influential politician wanted the commissioner of police that would be under his control and command. But what is important is that when you take a CP, either a month, a week, just as in Akwa, but where in one day we had 3 commissioners of police on that very day, that is chaotic.
In one single day.
One day, they announced 3 commissioners. We were changing them because part of the problem was that most of the commissioners of police they brought, they expressed professionality. They committed to working with me to ensure that the entire process, all the rules were enforced fully, fairly, and impartially. But this was unacceptable to some politicians. That's what led to that level of turnover. So, with respect to the current IG, what I have seen, the pattern that I've seen so far, as I noted on the 12th of August this year, if this template is taken to the 2023 election, it will be well with our country.
Okay. We have a WhatsApp question, but before then, I have to tell our listeners all over again, for those who may want to call in and engage with Barrister Mike Igini, ask questions, give your opinions. The numbers to call are 070-322-77338, 070-322-77338, or 090-9555-1039, 090-9555-1039. A question says, will there be an election in 2023 with the insecurity ravaging the north-south, bandits having their ways and smiling to bank with ransom payment? And what does Mr. Mike think about the 1.3 trillion naira budgeted to fight insurgency in 2023? You want to respond to that?
Well, those are matters of security. The election is one activity that nations around the world conduct in peacetime, which means that we need a secure ambience. We are hopeful that in the areas that are very highly challenged, that security will do their very best so that we can have elections. Because the alternative cannot be contemplated, because it will mean that people who are in office now, there will be constitutional crisis if we don't conduct elections. It will mean that those who are in office now, whose tenure has ended, will now remain in office. Is that what people want? I think that's not what we want. I'm sure and I'm hopeful that the security will do their best. I mean, given some of the things we have seen in recent times, about some of the trained, abducted Nigerians that have been released and all that. But we hope that that will be done. Well, security matters. I really cannot speak about the budget. I don't know the component of the budget. In fact, I'm just reading that today. So that's much I could say about that. That indeed we need a good security ambience to conduct the election, and we are hopeful that all that will be done. Because to do otherwise will mean that there will be a constitutional crisis in Nigeria if elections are not conducted.
For you, as somebody who at some point risked your life for democracy, for you as somebody who has had the privilege of serving your fatherland as a Proletarian guard for the electoral system, at least for about a decade, what are the peculiarities of the extant Electoral Act 2022 that gladden you? I must confess that as somebody who had, for me, who had been there wanting that we go in the direction of adoption of technology in our electoral system, I'm quite much glad. But you know what? We also know that in technology, sometimes it could be giggle, garbage in, garbage out. What are the peculiarities of the Electoral Act that would make you think that the 2023 elections, barring circumstances like the one you've just answered, you just responded to, like security, that may make it a bit more different from what we've always had?
Well, thank you very much. You see, in this modern world, a society, an institution that fails to reform will be overtaken by the chaos of decay and decline. What INEC has done in terms of innovations are innovations that will address historical challenges of election service delivery. In particular, Section 47 of the current Act has replaced the provision of Section 49 that was used by politicians to buy PVC, to have PVC. Today, under the current 2022 Act, with the INEC beavers, which is now compulsory, we no longer have incident form. The method of identification now is about 5 methods. Therefore, there will be no recourse to the use of incident form anymore. It's either you are on the database and you can be confirmed. That's the only way you can vote. And at the end of every election, irrespective of what you have on the register of voters, a new register can be produced through the beavers. Because when you come, your PVC we have 5 methods. They will confirm you through your biometric. Assuming your biometric face, we do what we call the facial accreditation, facial recognition. If your fingers fail, what about your face? That will not fail. We also use what we call the barcode. Once you put the barcode, it will pull the individual out from the beaver. You see your face, your detail, everything.
The barcode on the PVC.
Barcode on the PVC. We also use what we call the QR of the hard copy register before the presiding officer. Once they put the beaver there, it will bring out every detail about you. Number 3, we use what we call the voter identification number, VIN number. If you check your PVC, you will find that there is some tiny number they call VIN number. It's readable. That VIN number, once INEC type in the last 6 digits into it, it will pull you out. And finally, we also do using your son name. Just your son name is enough to get you out. So with that, you'll be entitled to a ballot paper. Now, to stop vote buying, INEC is going to deploy under agent cover some agents, special people, to be at each of the 176,846 polling units. From the moment you are issued a ballot paper, up to the point you go to the cubicle to make a choice, and you come back, folding it and drop it on the open ballot secret system, you are not expected to use your telephone to snap, to take image of the ballot paper. You are likely to lose your phone. We are not saying you cannot go to the polling unit without your telephone. Then we are saying, on the current rule, say that from the time you have been accredited, have been issued a ballot, up to the time you drop the ballot on the ballot box, you cannot use your phone in any manner to snap the ballot paper that you have printed. Now, power has been returned to the Nigerian people. The polling unit is now the center of universe. Now, at the end of the poll will start by 2:30. It will close officially by 8:30 in the morning. It will close by 2:30 according to the guidelines, barring any change that may be made. When the last person on the queue shall have voted. At the end of the poll, the presiding officer, they will sort out the ballot, they will count it. After counting it, they will record the scores of the respective contested candidate on the form EC8A. After they have done that, they will stamp, the presiding officer will sign, then the party agent will also sign. After they have signed, they will now give the duplicate to the party agent. Thereafter, the original copy from ECA, they will use the beaver, they will snap it. The total number of the accredited voters and the scores of the candidate will now be uploaded. It is uploaded into the cloud. It is not in the sense of transmission the way people talk about it. We upload it into the cloud. Today, if you lose your telephone, your handset, unlike the previous years at the exception of GSM, you just complain that, oh, I cannot find your data and so on and so forth and so forth. Now, with the cloud system, once you upload anything in the cloud, you sign it into the cloud. Once you get a new SIM and you put it into a handset, every of your information will come. That is what INEC does. But now, when we talk about hacking, all the elections we have conducted, there have been attempts to try to hack, but it has been unsuccessful. But one important thing you must know here is this. Now, all candidates for election, go and set up your situation room. If you are a state house of assembly candidate for an election, all you need to do, have a situation room of the number of wards that constitute that particular state constituency. Then, your party agents that are there who have been given duplicate, will anybody, friend, will anybody hack the original duplicate, the duplicate given to your party agent? That can never be hacked. Nobody will have that. You have it. You start the process of collating the result. Without you having to wait for INEC. You collate, as INEC is collating, you are collating your result. But one thing you cannot do is that you cannot declare somebody a winner. Only INEC can make that declaration. But you have liberty to do your collation. It is that process that is reducing tension in the country in all the subsequent elections we have conducted. Because before the final tally is done, everybody will have known the standing of the respective contesting candidate in that election. That is the beauty of what's being done. Thereafter, I started to say, just as we are doing bimodal accreditation, the commission is also doing what we call bimodal process of result collation step by step. Because once the duplicate has been given, the presiding officer is expected to also copy into from EC60A, what we now call the people from EC80. That must be pasted at the polling unit. Thereafter, he proceeds to the work collation center. The unique thing, why power be returned to Nigerian people, what is left to Nigerian people is how whatever they want to do with it is in their hands. Is that unlike before, when all through the period of the collation process at the polling unit, each of the polling unit, the work collation officer is not aware of what has taken place at the polling unit. This time around, under the current regime, the work collation officer, without talking to the presiding officer, he has a code to see the result already in our result viewing portal. He has seen the result. Therefore, the fact that the presiding officer knows that the work collation officer has already seen the result, when he's now proceeding to give him the manual copy of from EC8A, all right, he knows that he cannot, unlike the previous regime, previous system, where on the way they can change the result, mutilate, or even completely change the entire result. He can no longer do so because he knows that the work collation officer already seen the result. This is the beauty of what the system is. This is what has been done in Edo, Anambra, Ondo, Ekiti, Osun, that have brought the kind of openness and transparency that is unequal in the process
Barrister Mike Igini,
tally management in our country.
Barrister Mike Igini, it's been a pleasure having you. We really want to say thank you for this sacrifice of your time, and we believe that as the electioneering season goes on, we may revert, especially in the area of enlightenment, to somebody as astutely knowledgeable about our electioneering laws as you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello. We hope to get the gentleman and indeed some other persons as knowledgeable about the Electoral Act 2022. Get them into our studios or get them live to you as many times as possible during this electioneering period, because fundamentally knowledge is power. That's the show for today. It's been somewhat illuminating. My producer, as usual, has been Waire Ofigo. And this is where we wrap it for today. Thank you.
Hold on tight.
My name is Honorable Hakeem Dixon.
This is Honorable Adekunle Akobada.
I'm Dili Momodu, and you are listening to Law FM 103.9 for knowledge and entertainment. Your only law radio station.